A floating torso and a demonic face peering from the closet at night, an otherworldly, non-existent town, and an insect-like alien sighting late at night in the woods. These three stories from some of the creepiest places on Reddit are sure to have you keeping the lights on a bit brighter tonight, maybe postponing that camping trip, and remembering to avoid any unknown detours or random stops during your next road trip. Welcome to Bexvoren Beyond. I'm Johnny Bexvoren, your guide through the paranormal and otherworldly. From cryptids to UFO sightings, glitches in the Matrix, and everything in between, we dive deep into the weird world of the unexplained. So let's get right into our first story. I was just reading another post here and got a flashback to something abundantly strange that happened to me as a kid. Figured I'd post, otherwise I'd probably forget it for another 20 years again. My parents took me and my brother camping. I guess the place is still there, Nelson's Family Campground along Hales Brook in East Hampton, CT. My brother and I used to slip quarters in this arcade machine they had in this log cabin-y main office. We loved it. The trip itself was uneventful. Mom and Dad were nagging at each other and lightly fighting. Dad took us fishing. We didn't catch anything, and he was kind of being a dick. My brother and I were in the Scouts, so we were familiar with the outdoors. We went fishing and camping all the time with our uncle, who took us on more backwoods kind of trips. This was a breeze for us. It's like 4 a.m. one of the nights, and I gotta pee. I've pretty much seen it all, and the campground is safe, and all I gotta worry about is skunks or possums. I put on a jacket and crawl out of the tent and walk over to the bushes. I'm standing there and I see this animal head with glowing green eyes low in the bushes about 20 feet out, maybe a foot or two from the ground. I assume it's a possum, so I start to pee. And then I remember thinking, wow, that possum actually really looks like an alien, but if it were a giant bug. My eyes adjust and I expect a possum face to appear, but nope, an alien, but if it looked like a praying mantis. It kind of sinks in how strange it is the eyes are glowing green and not yellow, like a bioluminescence and not a reflection. I recall it reminded me of fireflies. And then my eyes actually adjust, and I see that not only am I right, but I also see its long, spindly arms. It's laying there in a position like it was doing push-ups. Its otherworldly and strangely long arms are bent at the elbow, which when bent, sit higher than its head. It sort of looks like a long letter M. I kind of digest all this, as it were. I'm not dreaming, so I should probably panic, but I realize if it's an alien, that they're only like 3 or 4 feet tall, according to lore, so I don't care, I'll just kick its ass. And then it stands up. Well, the head elevates. The arms straighten out. Maybe it's just a human after all and some gangly creep, but the head keeps elevating. It would have had to have been 9 or 10 feet tall by the time it was done standing up. I was just frozen trying to tell myself how not real this was, or the million of things it could be. Then I realized, nope, what you see here is what you get. You're looking at exactly what you think you're looking at. I'm like 20 feet from this 10-foot tall Mantis Alien with glowing green eyes, and it's just me and him. Finally, I scream like my life depended on it, because it probably did. Then just everything kind of gets hazy. I remember making it to the tent and hiding in my sleeping bag, and my brother reacting frantically. My parents are upset, and I woke up the whole campground. I tell them what happened, and they walk over there where it was, and I see it would have for sure been a few feet taller than adults, and I feel like I'm about to be sick. Meanwhile, I'm expecting a long, gangly arm to dart out of the bush and snag one of them. I want to believe it was a dream or a night terror, but my brother harassed me about it for a good 10 years before he died. I guess the most unsettling part of it all was how confident the thing was, like I was just inconsequential to it, and it was observing me with disdain. I was just this gross nothing to it, like it could eat me, but thank you / no thank you. I don't know why I felt that way. Well, I know I definitely won't be going on any camping trips anytime soon. How about you? I've always been creeped out by bugs, the exoskeletons, the eyes, the legs, creepy. And the idea of the different species of aliens and the theories of insect-based alien humanoids, that's the kind of stuff that would keep me up at night as a kid, and sometimes now. Have you ever encountered anything similar out in the woods? Feel free to share your story in the comments below. so I'm not really sure where or what thread this should go in, so I figured I could try here and see what y'all say. For some context, I'm a 25-year-old male, and this happened when I was about 13. Yes, it's been a long time since it happened, but my family and I still talk about it to this day, as it involved all of us. And while we still talk about it, I unfortunately have a hard time remembering the exact dates and some parts of it due to some head trauma. So that means some of the finer details I can't remember at this moment, but I know this happened sometime during the year 2012. I think it happened on our way from Washington to Oklahoma. We had made this trip several times, but I cannot remember if it was on our way to Washington or from Washington that year. We had been on the road all day. It was night, the sun had already set, and everyone was tired. We had 2 cars to fit everything. Me, my sister, and my mom rode in the SUV, while my brother and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, rode in the small 4-door car. We had been on a long stretch of road surrounded by pine trees on both sides. The GPS said we wouldn't reach another town for a good few miles, but there were lights just down the road. I thought maybe the GPS needed to be updated or something, because some small towns tend to not show up on these at the time. I don't remember the name of the brand we had, but you stick it in the car window, plug it into your car, enter the address, and pick your route. We usually took the same routes every time depending on the time of year. Now I don't remember which route we took. It could have been during the summer/fall, but I could be wrong. But we knew the routes by this point and we didn't expect this town. We came closer and my brother called my mom and the conversation went something along the lines of saying he was getting tired and his girlfriend was already asleep, so she couldn't drive. My mom agreed that she may be too tired for once and needed to pull over to find a hotel in this town. He said all right, and he slowed to get behind us so he could follow us to pull over. At this point, everything seemed fine and nothing was out of the ordinary. It wasn't until we passed a sign with the name of the town on it that my gut twisted. I remember watching as we neared the town, and there was just an inkling of a feeling that I didn't understand yet. Everything seemed fine, but I kept watching my surroundings as we drove. The lights had a sickly yellow or orange hue to them. I remember looking at the sign as we passed, but I can't remember the name of the town. And the funny thing, no one can. No one had been able to. Yet we wrote it down that night, and the day after, so we don't come through it again. Anyways, we passed the sign and my gut just drops. At the time I didn't understand what I was feeling was anxiety. I just remembered thinking we were being watched, but looking around there was no one. While yes, it was the middle of the night, so people were probably asleep. There were no cars, buildings were empty, the air itself was stagnant as we drove through. Now I know kid me had a very active imagination, but my older brother can confirm the town was empty in a way it scared even him. We saw a church sitting on a small hill just to the right side of the town, and we drove up to it. We parked near the door, as it was the only light in the gravel parking lot. Also, this was the only light that was white and didn't have a sick hue to it. We all stepped out of the cars to stretch our legs and find a hotel. My mom told my sister, who was about 9 or 10 at the time, to stay close, slipping in the fact that she had this creepy feeling as well. At the time, I dismissed the small statement and just walk around the car to move my legs when something moves behind the big dumpster, then across the parking lot. The light on the door didn't reach all the way out to the dumpster. I could barely see its outline enough to know it was even a dumpster. But something scattered along the gravel as it darted behind it. My mom hears this and orders me and my sister to get in the car. I stood, staring for a moment before walking backwards to the car. For whatever reason, I didn't feel like turning my back to it. We waited in the car as my brother had his girlfriend get in the car and walked my mom to the SUV and helped her put the address in the GPS. Once it was set, he got in the car and we drove off. I couldn't get myself to look back at the dumpster as we drove off. We drive through the town and again, everything seemed eerily empty and clean. There was no litter, no trash, nothing that suggested life besides the street lights that were on. We head to the edge of town, following the GPS, and turned onto this gravel road that led down into a giant open surrounding by these dense woods. In said lot was the motel, and I don't mean the fancy hotels and motels now. No, this was a 2-story L-shaped building with about 30 or 40 rooms, and the check-in was a separate small building just to the side of the hotel rooms. It only had one light in the parking lot besides the small ones above the doors. This light was a hollow white. We pulled in and my mom called my brother and said to stay in the car, that she was going to go talk to whoever was inside. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. The building was small, but the windows were big. We could see inside enough to watch our mother go in and talk to the guy at the counter. But here's the thing, me, my sister, and my brother all saw different things. When our mother went in, I saw her talk to an old man who had a thin, frail stature and a permanent scowl. He seemed old and weary and miserable. His eyes were slightly sunken in, his skin slightly pale and hanging slightly. My sister says she saw a young man who seemed nervous and annoyed. Dark hair and deep eyes. My brother says he saw a middle-aged man who was aloof and uncaring. He had a beard and dark hair. I can't remember all the details they gave me, but I knew the main differences. When our mother came out, she got in the car and waved my brother to follow. We parked in front of our rooms. She had gotten two side by side. We were told to only bring in the essentials for the night, because she doesn't want to stay any longer than necessary in the morning. We all agreed, and grabbed as little as we needed and headed into our rooms. My sister, my mother, and I stayed in the right room, while my brother and his girlfriend stayed in the left. My sister had asked to take a shower, and of course our mother went to help get it ready, as my sister wasn't sure how this one worked. Well, turns out it didn't. The water wouldn't turn on. So she calls my brother and explains, and of course he comes to get her so she can shower in theirs. While they go do that, my mom looks at the beds, realizing I'm staring at them, and she goes, "You don't want to touch them either, do you?" And hearing I wasn't alone in this feeling, I smiled and shook my head. I said it feels gross, and she said it does. She went to check the beds when my brother came running back to our room. He opened the door frantically, and of course it startled us. He said to pack my things and asked my mom to come here. She nodded and followed and began packing stuff back into my bag. My sister came back over and she looked freaked out. I remember offering to help her pack and asking what happened, and at first she had a hard time trying to say it, but finally got it out, that there was blood in the shower when they went in. She freaked out and had Caleb check it, and he came to get our mom. She came back and calmly said to put our things back in the truck and get in. At that point, it really hit how bad this place felt. I began to panic and hurried to put our stuff in the car. We got in, and my brother nor my mom wasted time driving away, not even stopping to get a refund for not staying or telling them about the blood. We turned to continue going through the town onto the next one we knew about. Unfortunately, my brother needed gas. Luckily, as we get to the edge of the town, like the rest of it is in our rearview mirrors, there was a gas station, but again, no cars, not even an employee's car. My brother pulls up to the pump, and my mom pulls to the one next to it, so we're all together still. We all jump out and go inside after my brother pumps his gas. At this point, we're all awake, so we grab a drink and a snack and pay for gas. That goes fine until we go back outside. We're all heading back to the cars. My brother's girlfriend was in the car already, and I was walking next to him. I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were laughing some to kind of ease the tension. I'm standing next to him as he's putting the thing back to the pump, and something moves across the parking lot. Both of our heads shoot up, and we're staring at the shed in the back corner and tall, intimidating trees behind it. All of a sudden, two figures dart and run behind the shed. My brother slowly closes his gas tank without taking his eyes off the shed, and he says to go get in the car. As soon as he says it, 3 pairs of glowing yellow amber eyes are staring back at us from beside the shed, yet taller than it. My brother yells for us to get in the car and leave. He books to the front seat of his car as I jump in our truck and he speeds off, my mom following after him. My mom is asking what happened because she didn't see that part, but luckily my sister had seen it also. We began telling her what happened, and she called my brother. He told her the same thing, and she said that we'll never come through here again. After this, we drove to the next town and found a Holiday Inn and went there. We spent the next hour, I think, just kind of talking about what happened until we were all calm enough to sleep. The next day, I remember us trying to look up the town we had gone through the night before, but we couldn't find anything. We thought maybe it just wasn't a well-known town, so we got older maps and even asked people that worked there about the town a few miles away, and no one knew anything about it. Even said there wasn't a town that way for miles. Since then, it's had us all dumbfounded about it. Now, there's no point in trying to find it when we can't remember the name of it. It's still a deep-rooted enough memory that we all talk about it. It's not often, but it's like something we can't forget, no matter how hard we try. Now that's some unsettling stuff. I can't even imagine the levels of anxiety an experience like that would cause. Already being in an unfamiliar location and then having a shared experience like that. Man, that's super creepy. This happened a couple of years ago, early 2019, if I remember right. I had a noise machine to help me sleep. I had it going and for some reason felt this intense feeling of dread and terror like nothing I've felt before. I'm talking pit and stomach, heart starts going crazy, adrenaline. I thought at the time I was having sleep paralysis because I've had a few experiences before with sleep paralysis, but I could move my body, so that rules it out. My eyes were closed tight because I didn't want to risk seeing whatever was making me feel this scared, but eventually I gave in and opened my eyes. Right at the foot of my bed, there was this torso. No legs, no head, no arms, just torso, just floating in the air. It kind of sounds funny, to be honest, thinking back on it, but I was absolutely terrified. I was calling for my mom, but she couldn't hear me over the noise machine. I felt for some reason it was mocking me, like I was trying to call for help, but my mom couldn't hear me because of the noise machine, and I was just stuck. I couldn't move either, out of fear. I still don't think it was sleep paralysis, because I could feel the difference between just not being able to move and not being able to move out of fear. My closet was open, very stupidly, and I don't know if this was just me imagining things, but I swear I could see this shriveled, creepy face peering out of my clothes at me. This long, spindly hand peering out of my clothes as well, holding it open a little. Looking up, there was some sort of thing looking down at me. I can't remember it for some reason, I just know it was watching me. It flickers between being this flat thing against the ceiling and some sort of small humanoid. My mom eventually heard me, because at this point I was screaming for her to open the door. As soon as the light hit my room, everything just disappeared. I told her what happened, and she was concerned, but at the same time was like, just go back to sleep. The weird thing was that usually I can chalk it up to being some item or a pile of clothes that is shaped like something else, and in the dark your mind will play tricks on you and make it look like something else. But the thing was, there was nothing that could have been the torso. It was floating. No poster where it was. Nothing. The closet thing didn't make sense because I could see my clothes moving. The ceiling thing didn't make sense either because there was nothing on my ceiling besides a fan. It could have been the fan, but where the thing wasn't near the fan. I've never thought to tell this because I've had it out of my mind for a while, but I saw this subreddit on a YouTube video and thought I'd talk about it to see what others think. Whoa, I definitely wouldn't be getting any sleep for the rest of the night, that's for sure. I couldn't imagine how I would react to seeing something like that. The intrusive thoughts of someone or something appearing over you or at you while you sleep is already dreadful enough. But to actually see something that you believe isn't just your mind and imagination playing tricks on you? Nope. So much nope. Thank you so much for exploring the unknown and otherworldly with me. If you enjoyed this journey, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a dive into the strange, spooky, and just plain weird world of Bexvoren beyond. I'm Johnny Bexvoren, and until next time, keep your eyes open, because you never know what's lurking just beyond.